It's beautiful to be able to celebrate Pride Shabbat, and it's almost as if, oh, it's Pride Shabbat, of course. But it hasn't always been that way. And it isn't that way in many communities in the world. And even in this community, I've been here for 17 years, but I grew up in this community, Joburg and Cape Town, and Durban, I guess, for a time. And I know that there was a time that progressive did not mean queer-friendly. And thank God that has changed. But as I said, that's not something we can take for granted. It's something that we continually need to be activists for. And you might say, well, what's a straight rabbi doing leading Pride Shabbat? And I would say that we can take a message from this week's Torah portion where after the golden calf, Moses is up on the top of Mount Sinai and God says, look, Moses, those guys down there, I'm about to obliterate them. But I tell you what, we'll start a new children of Israel from you. I'm not quoting exactly from Torah, but in essence, that's the offer God makes. And Moses says, no, I don't accept that deal. So I know what they've done, and I know that I'm not part of what they've done. But I want to advocate now. I want to be an ally for the children of Israel. And I want to say, no, you don't destroy the children of Israel. And God accepts, and they move forward. And here we are today. So there are so many ways to stand up in allyship. I feel like we need to own that and to find ways of being curious, asking questions, how it is that we can be supportive. But I am relieved to be able to introduce our guest speaker for the evening, who is Mels. And Mels, why I'm relieved is because Mels grew up in the same community that I grew up in, where it wasn't always easy to be somebody that was different in any way. And thank God we are in a different community today. So Mels, as a child of Temple Israel and an adult of Temple Israel and somebody who has been part of advocating for change in this community, I am so honored that you are going to speak to us this evening, and I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Rabbi Greg. Tonight, I will be talking about two things that are not at all important to me: sex and gender. In this week's parasha, the Hebrew people made a golden calf while waiting for Moshe. And Aaron said to them, "You men, take the gold rings that are on the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." Men, wives, sons, daughters, I am none of these things. I am agender and asexual. They sound exactly like they are. I have no gender identity, and I have no desire for sex. Agender is a flavor of transgender identity, often called non-binary. While some non-binary people feel a connection with both man and woman genders, or a mix, I don't feel a connection with either. My pronouns are she, her, because it's easiest, and because I don't much care what pronouns you use for me. I like to go by a shortened version of my giving name, which suits me better. I don't want to constantly educate strangers. I don't want to raise questions. I find it exhausting, absolutely exhausting, to explain to people who are confused and then frequently become hostile towards me because of my identity. Being agender, I get the same hate that transgender people get from society in general. And then, unfortunately, also from some binary transgender people. People say that we all have too many genders, or that we just make things up to be special. I have even been excluded by the LGBT community before, because according to them, no one can be no gender. Gender really confused me when I was growing up. I loved femme clothing. I still sometimes wear it. But I saw no reason to behave in the way that ladies are asked to behave. I liked makeup, and I only use it when I feel like it. And I would happily describe my style as weird. These days, I mostly wear t-shirts from the menswear department, and some people ask me if I'm a man. The only thing I've ever known for certain in my whole life is that I am not a man. Everything else is a question. But I do still identify with the woman's experience, but only with a set of parameters, mostly based on society and how they view me. People also struggle to understand asexuality, especially in me, because I have felt sexual desire in the past. Asexuality is a continuum. The continuum is something I could speak for hours on. And some people never feel desire in their lives, and others do. But sometimes, in a way not generally understood by society. In my life, I've felt sexual desire. I have felt occasional desire. And for the last number of years, I have felt no desire at all. This sort of change over years is a common experience, no matter your sexual identity. Once upon a time, I was even attracted to men. Perhaps one day I'll want sex again. Perhaps I never will. As asexual and femme-presenting, I am often faced with the idea that I just haven't tried it with the right person. The right person usually being them. It's a common problem that lesbians also face. Misogyny doesn't even allow someone who doesn't feel sexual attraction to be left alone. Even some in the LGBTQ community can be unaccepting. I have been told that asexuality is the same as celibacy, and that it's a choice, rather than just who I am. And this confuses me. Some of these are the same people who were told that being gay was a choice. And then they turn to me and say it to me, the very community who should be supporting me. My sexuality and gender are invisible at Pride. So a few years ago now, I was first introduced to the concepts of non-binary identities, and then that there were people who didn't relate with the entire concept of gender. Around the same time, I found that sexuality is a spectrum and does include asexual identities. I am more comfortable since I discovered these labels for myself. Labels can be extremely useful. A lot of people don't like that. Mine gave me words to help me understand myself, to help others understand me, and most importantly, for me to find others like me. But keep in mind, we must only apply labels to ourselves. Nobody should apply labels to anyone else. Think of it like cats and boxes. A cat will get into a box by itself, but it's not gonna be good if the cat doesn't want to be there. So I now no longer listen to others' assumptions about me, and I have a firm understanding of who I am. Unfortunately, in our society, there is a cost. I live in an awkward position. I am surrounded by a world that denies I exist. Acceptance is uncommon. Respect for who I am is even less common. I have difficulties in a world made for only two genders. As you probably know, toilets are a common problem. I have to make a choice. I have to choose a side, and I don't fit in. And even in well-meaning cases, amazing people have tried to find a solution. Unfortunately, these non-gendered bathrooms are usually ones that have had another use, such as a disabled bathroom. My gender is not a disability. So, okay, this is probably the first time many of you have heard of my identities, or the first time you'd met someone who's open. I know the feeling. While I've openly been part of the LGBTQ community most of my life, it was not until adulthood that I first met openly asexual people. And it's only in the last decade that I learned that agender is a valid gender option. Why don't we speak? We are misunderstood. We are denied because we have no sexuality at all. We are told that we don't fit, which assumes a form of sexual desire as an intrinsic part of fitting. Same for agender. Because the world focuses on men, women, and on rare occasions, people who are a mix, how can having no gender be a gender identity? So we don't speak openly. We're too scared of losing our communities, of losing our families. So we don't say anything. But things are improving, and I'm standing here to tell everyone who is struggling to figure out who they are that neither gender nor sexuality are necessary, and that there are many of us here for you, and it's about time we are. So through all this difficulty, I'm actually happy. This path has given me a way to feel comfortable in my own skin, in the exact right way for me to love myself. Thank you.
Shkoyach, Mels. So many questions. Thank you for your courage, and thank you for your powerful words, and also for opening up the possibility for so many people to understand who we are and who each other are in ways that invite curiosity, not labels. Going back to Mount Sinai, when Moses comes down and smashes the tablets, God might have said, "Oh, well, Moses, now you've smashed the tablets, we're done here." God doesn't. God says, "Fine. Those are good. We want those broken tablets. And now you'll make another set of tablets, and we'll put both of them in the ark, and both will be sacred and holy." So I hope that you've shattered some idols this evening, but also invited us to question with curiosity and to ask more, which I think is a healthy state of being in this world that we are right now, curious and questioning. We are reminding ourselves that it is upon us to fix the